The games industry is changing in 2025, and it's not like your yearly cycle that you expect in games. This is genuinely course correction at a big scale that's reshaping how studios operate, how games get made, and what careers can you have going forward. But I don't think it's all doom and gloom. It's like the industry is trying to find a healthier, more sustainable way forward. So in this video, I want to cover what's actually challenging in games development right now. Which studios are finding success despite the challenges? And could upcoming tentpole games like GTA 6 help stabilize things? I want to break down what is happening in games right now and how it unfolds for the next few years, and how these shifts might actually end up giving us better games and more sustainable studios. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Welcome to another video, and thanks for being here. My name is Harvey Newman, and I like to cover all things games, animation, and much more. Now, this video is based on my Substack article that I published last Friday, talking about exactly the same subject, and I go a little bit more in depth in that article. I am going to start actively posting on Substack on a weekly basis, and now that they actually have videos available and podcasts and audio and much more, I think it's a beautiful place to build a community. So join me over there if you want to see these things earlier, also see a little bit behind the scenes, because I actually have videos going on there as well. So if you don't mind, just one more announcement about my workshop that is going to start on May 6th. I just wrapped up the last one, and it was for 4 weeks, 3 hours, twice a week, and it was incredibly intense, but so much fun. I genuinely am hyped about the next one because we've learned a lot with the last one. So if you're interested in learning more about games, how to get into games, how to fast track your career, how to kind of like get to know what goes on behind the scenes, then consider subscribing to my workshop. All details are going to be on the website, link below. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, so this year we kicked off the year well. If you compare 2025 to 2023 and 2024, January were months of basically putting people through the meat grinder. There were so many studios closing, and this is to do mostly with the fiscal year of a lot of companies. They want to make sure that they start the new year really well. You had ended up that January, February, and March were months that a lot of changes were happening both in East and West in 2023 and 2024. And I hoped for the last couple of years, as I've mentioned in previous videos, that things would slow down and we could go back to how things used to be as much as possible, or at least find a new normal that we can basically be like, okay, so are we going to stop now, or are we going to be stable for a bit? And things seemed to be that way in January, which was great. EA, as much as EA gets a lot of flack because of all the sports games and certain things, for all the gamers out there, you know what I mean. And EA rebranding FIFA to EA Sports FC felt like a refreshing take, and they were doing well. Plus, they also had Dragon Age that looked absolutely fantastic, still looks fantastic, and it looked like it was going to be a hit based on early previews and like anticipation of players. So basically, February kind of like left me a little bit optimistic about what's coming in this year. However, I knew that just a month before there was massive closure, so I had to be cautiously optimistic about this year. And lo and behold, here comes February, and now we actually get Warner Brothers closing 3 studios, 3 great studios. Playdemic Games, Warner Brothers San Diego, and most gut-wrenching of them all was definitely Monolith Games, because they actually had some amazing games, especially the Shadow of Mordor games. They were amazing. The tech that they had, the animations they had specifically for me and for us, the animation community, was amazing. And it's hard to see somebody or a studio with so much talent and so much creativity go down so badly, and is not at their fault that these things happen, unfortunately. So it got me thinking about what is happening this year that is different from 2023 and 2024. Now more than ever in 2025, I think that player sentiment is shifting a bunch when it comes to AAA games. AAA games, a while back, they used to be the ones that actually pushed the envelope forward when it comes to what's possible in games. If you think about Killzone back in the day when it first came along, or Uncharted when it first came along, those are games that basically we were here And then they just push the boundaries over here, and now there's a new normal, and now everybody wants to get to this level. And then he just kept going, right? Batman Arkham series, same thing. And you kind of just get inspired by what the big players do. And then you, as a mid-level or indie developer, you want to kind of like take some of those things and make it your own. Now, another thing that is happening as well is the East versus West shift that is happening. So for the longest time, there's Japan making games, and there's also the West making games. And this is mostly Europe and the US, mostly US, but also Europe. And this has been mostly the hubs of games for the longest time. And I do think that there is such a thing as China becoming a player, because if you look at the Chinese market, it's very much mobile oriented. So what do they have in the West? What do they have in Japan that we don't have over here? So Black Myth now came out. Obviously, a showcase to the world that, the Chinese market is very capable of creating AAA games. So at this point, enter the latest studio that fell down just last week in this month of March, which was Marvel Rivals, owned by NetEase, and it was NetEase Seattle studio that actually closed. Now, why is this important? To me, that's the most gut-wrenching one for me, because you have a studio that it's incredibly talented, creating a popular IP that is played by everybody online, that can be expandable. And the company, the owning company, NetEase, still decides to shut down the studio and then move all the talent over to China. Now, there's nothing bad about moving things back to China, that's fine, but it just means that all the people that are currently working or were currently working in the game, they are now left with no jobs and now looking for another job, and they were just doing a good job at the current game. All of the talk that we had so far in 2023 and 2024 has been about shutting down studios because there's not enough money, or shutting down studios because the games were not successful enough. But if we start shutting down studios because games are still successful, we just want to save more money by moving our operations to another country, I think we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot quite quickly, because if there's one thing that I know as a AAA developer for many years, is that having games built by people from different nationalities, different backgrounds, different races, ends up giving you a better game as a result, much more original game. I do think that there is such a thing as trying to protect the integrity and also the creativity behind the games. Because if you're not careful, a lot of these people that are currently in the industry, that have all this talent and knowledge, they will leave the industry, the games industry, no knowledge transfer, and then we're going to lose a lot of the stuff that made the games industry amazing. We need to preserve these people and this talent in the industry as much as possible, because just taking an IP and moving it somewhere else just to save money, definitely not the way to go, unfortunately, I think, in my opinion. Now, the other thing that is happening this year, I think, as well, is that we are going over the COVID hangover. Basically, in the COVID era, studios were expanding. They couldn't have enough people to make games because people had such demand for games. Everybody was bored at home. Now we are experiencing the opposite, where things are contracting to the point where they were smaller than before COVID. I think I've never seen the industry so small as it is now. I was thinking about how the industry was when I first started. But when I started in early 2000s, there was a lot of AA studios that are no longer here. They folded, and what happened is that when these AA studios folded, all these people either moved over to AAA gaming or indie gaming. So there was that going on right now. So I don't think the contraction was that much at that point, because there was always a place to go. Now it feels very much like there is no place to go. If you lose your AAA game title studio that you were doing before, first, anywhere you move that is not AAA, they are not going to pay you the same, that's for sure. And second, there is such a thing as an overqualified person. So if you are expensive, and if you actually have skills that go above and beyond what any studio wants, or AA studios want, or an indie studio wants, then all of a sudden you are no longer desired by the studio. The fact that after being on the Mount Rushmore of game making, now you feel, for certain people, not everybody, you feel like you have to demote yourself, or just work a little less, or earning a little less because of it. And this is people with families, people that have a certain lifestyle, people that have been working in AAA for a long time. And having that change is hard. It's incredibly hard. And like, I cannot stress enough how developers feel at this time, because every time anybody gets laid off, I can relate to the idea of them kind of being in despair of like where I'm going to find the next job. With that all being said, so it's not all doom and gloom. Where's the light? Where can we go from here, and where is the positivity on all this, right? So this is where I like to see things a little bit different than most, I think, because the way I equate this slump and this crash and this situation that we're going through right now in games is very much like a stock market. Do you guys remember the stock market decline in 2008? It was horrible, everybody felt it, and if you were there, you remember, everybody was panicky. Now, a guy like Warren Buffett, right, which is like one of the best investors in the world, they will see that as an opportunity, while 99% of the people out there will see that as chaos and horrible, and the world is going to end. And we are in a similar situation now with the world, because things are a bit upside down. It's horrible right now. But what I wanted to say with this is that I think that all those developers that basically can see opportunity in these situations that are really stressful, they will most likely thrive, because now you are in a situation, in a position where you can actually go ahead and chase that indie job that you always wanted, but because you are in a AAA game studio that pay you a lot of money, you never could pursue. But now you have no choice but to do it. Or you wanted to start your own game studio like myself, and now you have the opportunity to do it. Or you wanted to actually create your own outsourced company that does art for studios or something along those lines, for Epic or any other studio. Now you can do that. So I think that even though this is hard, I'm a big believer that bad things happen for you to learn from them. And then if you actually take those learnings and make the most out of them, it means that you're growing. I think that's going to be the state of the industry on the long run. We're going to look at this 5 years from now, look back, fingers crossed, and then we're going to see why these things are happening, why they are happening the way they are, and why they were so much better for the industry in the long run. Now, a few beacons of light that are a little bit closer to the 5-year timeline is two things. The first one, I think GTA 6 is about to come out, I don't know, the end of this year, at some point this year, fingers crossed. But whenever the game comes out, if you manage to witness any release from any GTA before, especially GTA 5, which is my favorite, you know that those games basically cause like an earthquake in the industry, and things change forever. GTA 6 has the potential to do exactly the same. And if that game does well, which I think it will, I think it's going to be a massive reality check for the industry and investors and money people that are very much not believing in the industry right now, to say that this industry is profitable as long as you believe in it. And major kudos to 2K Games, because they are genuinely pouring money into this game, GTA 6, like there's no tomorrow. There's nothing like a GTA game to come out to basically reshape the industry. The second thing that I think is going to be positive is going to be this console war situation. Unfortunately, PlayStation and Xbox are not doing so well. But you know who's doing well? Nintendo, and they are releasing a new console soon. And even though it's not like something completely fresh like the Switch when it first came out, but it's the Switch 2, and that most likely is going to move a lot of units for Nintendo, is going to sell a lot of games, and it's going to be a little bit of a breath of fresh air, because we need that E3 feeling of like announcement of PS2 vibes. Now lastly, developers and how they impact game making, inspiration, and how we go forward. Recently, there was a game that came out called Split Fiction, and Joseph Fares is the game director. Now, I remember working with Joseph when I was at DICE, because they were sharing our office at DICE, and the whole team at Hazelight was really nice. I never worked directly with them, I just saw them working, and they looked like they're having a lot of fun, and they still look like they're having a lot of fun. And I think Joseph is like exemplification of how a developer should actually bring out a game. I think other studios like Ninja Theory and Supergiant Games are other examples of this as well. And I think those developers that are more on the AA side, not AAA side, I think they are showing us the way forward, because with their marketing skills, with their creativity, with how the games look, with how polished they look, 0 bugs or nearly to 0 bugs, and basically making a lot of success. I think these games are going to be the ones that we're going to see more of going forward in this industry. And I'm here for it. I like it. I love it. It's great. One of my dreams with Proxima, my own studio, is exactly going that route of that AA side studio, because that's where the fun is. And when you see developers having fun, players have a tendency to gravitate towards that and really appreciate what's being done behind the scenes. And now we are in an era that people don't really care so much about the publishers anymore. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was always about, is a Sony game, is a Microsoft game, is a EA game. Now people don't really care so much about that. Now people care about the developer. Who is the developer behind this? Games, we are a young industry, so I hope that people will start going that route where they can start to see and understand who is behind these games. And we're starting with the game directors, right? There's the Hideo Kojimas, there's the Joseph Fares and stuff. But eventually we're going to get to a point where they will know who the producer of the game was, or who the animation director was, and things like that. So we can start basically giving flowers to the people that really deserve it. So this is where I think we're going to go going forward in games. And it's interesting and it's exciting, but it's sad all at the same time. And I'm cannot wait for us to be 5 years from now and see what went wrong along the way. I don't have all the answers. This is just me trying to find some light in the darkness, but I am hopeful for the games industry, and this industry I love. And if you're anything like me, you probably want it to survive and thrive going forward. And now that we're starting to hit that reset button, can the industry find that nice balance between creativity and business sustainability? Because if we go too much one way or the other, we kind of lose the games industry as we know it right now. And this is the key, the balance between creativity, being fulfilled creatively, and sustainability as a business. The 2025 gaming scene is incredibly fascinating to watch, even though it's hard to see all of this changing happening. So many friends, my LinkedIn feed feels like every single day there's multiple people that lose their jobs that I have to retweet and I have to contact and all that stuff. But I do think that this is bad that is coming for good, and I am optimistic about it in the future. I'll be tracking all the trends, success stories, and emerging patterns here in this channel, so don't forget to subscribe to learn more, hit the like button, and let me know below, what are you thinking about the industry right now, especially about these studios that just closed right now? Monolith Games, Marvel Rivals, it's a pain. So let me know down below, what are your thoughts? Love to chat to you guys about this. Until the next video, stay well, stay safe, peace.